Going broke. Who is next? Femi Awoyemi from Proshare. Femi, thank you very much for joining us on phone.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you, Femi Awoyemi. I'm sure you've heard the story, and Proshare.com and ProshareNG.com has pushed out a story this morning. Government is broke and cannot fund INEC. This story of the government going broke is coming from the political side. So do we have any reason to believe this statement?
Maybe I should clarify two things. One, I think looking at what you had written before, there is a matter of terminology being at play here, and also there is the second issue of an alternative argument. Straight off, I do not agree with the terminology that Nigeria is broke. I believe the Minister of Finance must have in me. I believe the government could apply challenges in terms of prioritization and desire to do many things at the same time. From the figures we have with us, simply looking at the federally collected revenue for the first half of 2011, the government achieved about 3.1 trillion the first half of the year, which is higher than the 2.1 trillion achieved for 2009. Even looking at what has happened in terms of the GDP, which has grown by about 7.4% in the first half of the year, even down to 12%, it's not say that the government is broke. The government does, however, have a big deficit element in this year's budget, we all know. And that what that means is that it goes to the second argument as to what you define as being broke. You recall that Angela Merkel, during the time when the natural crisis started, said there is a rumor going around that states cannot go broke or be bankrupt. And she said the rumor is not true. So under what conditions can countries go bankrupt? I do believe that countries will go bankrupt if they allow deficit spending to spin out of control. The technical term now means that it spins out of control. We do have a deficit spending right now. But the key test will be, are they no longer able to service their interest payments? And this goes to the other argument which we had raised before, and which better insight would now allow us to say categorically that it is a function of these so-called bailouts and expenses by governments that can lead to what you have in the case of Iceland or in Greece. We don't have the same situation in Nigeria. And because in terms of the bailouts, the government hasn't spent entirely too much. But if you look at what you said concerning AP and what have you, there are two clear definitions we have to be clear about. There is what you call the cash flow insolvency, which occurs when an institution, organization, or state is unable to pay debt as and when they fall due. And then you have what you call the balance sheet insolvency. And that is where you have a negative net asset. In other words, liabilities exceed assets. And so you find a situation whereby a business or another country can have a cash flow insolvency situation, but not a balance sheet insolvency.
What does Nigeria currently have? Femi, is it cash flow or balance sheet insolvency?
We basically have, it was clear from the one when we released the budget that we were going to go into a deficit spending pattern, which basically may create what you call a mismatch between expected revenues and spending.
So that's a cash flow situation, is it?
Yeah, basically. If you want to know, many large companies all over the world operate permanently in a what you call a business in insolvency position. That means the business have a negative net asset showing on its balance sheet, but it's still able to it's still cash flow solvent if ongoing revenue is able to meet its debt obligations. But you know that if cash flows are able to ongoing revenues to meet obligations, that's when you determine the insolvency portion of it. And one should not confuse these terminologies. Insolvency is not a synonym for bankruptcy, which is a very